Hello, welcome to the Film School Snobs. I'm Alexander Zabetta,
And I'm Jalen Michael.
and this is episode 13 of the Film School Snobs. Jalen, how's everything going?
Yeah, it's been a pretty busy week for me. Had to catch up on a lot of movies, so it is what it is. How about
Yeah,
you?
I've been doing all right. Same here, kind of busy week. I've been working a lot, and I've seen a couple movies. So I'm really interested in talking about them. For today, first we're gonna go into a in-depth review of The Boys. We briefly talked about it a couple episodes ago. But this is gonna be a full-on spoiler review. So if you have not yet seen The Boys, I highly recommend you go watch it on Amazon. It's only 8 episodes. And we are now going to spoiler territory. So Jalen, what are your thoughts on The Boys?
Yeah, I think the last time we talked about it, I said I finished this show and that I really enjoyed it. I haven't watched the season again since then, so this is just based on my first impressions of the show, like my first viewing. And yeah, the way I still feel the same way about it I did a few weeks ago. I think the
Mhm.
show's great. It's great characters. Such a neat concept to the whole superhero idea and what they're doing with it, and just tying it into the whole social media influencer phase that we or our culture that we see today. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, I just think it's a great show all around.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's a really good show. Last time we talked about it, I only saw like the first couple episodes. Now I've seen the entire thing in its entirety, and yeah, I thought it was really well done. I really like the commentary it had on, like you said, social media influencers and like just capitalism as a whole. And I do agree that like if superheroes were real, like corporations would find a way to like monetize that. They'll like make them social media influencers, sell the toys, sell the movies, and all that. I mean, that's what they're doing with like fictional superheroes right now.
Yeah, pretty
So,
much. Yeah, that's
so
about it.
I thought a lot of that was like really well done. I liked a lot of the humor, and a lot of the performances and the characters were really great.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Um, so since we're in spoiler territory now, what's your thoughts on the Homelander?
The Homelander, that guy sucks. He has a great head of hair though. I'm not gonna lie. I like his haircut.
you know, because the whole time, like, very obviously, they're trying to mimic his look after Superman and Chris Evans as Captain America, and now it's kind of just ruined Chris Evans for me. It's like, I really hope you're not a dick like this in real life.
No, I mean he seems like a very genuine guy. Like I follow him on
Yeah,
Twitter, and he seems like a very nice, genuine
oh,
guy.
yeah, for
So
sure. But that's how Homelander seemed like too.
that's true.
Behind closed doors, it's a whole nother story.
Oh
But,
God.
but yeah, no, I thought he was a great character. Just like within that first pilot episode, how it sets them up the 7 Up. And very early on, we get to see like, yeah, these people are kind of a holes. Like we saw A Train, he run. Well, I guess we'll talk about it more, but you see him do what he does,
Mm.
accidentally kills a person. We see, um, I forgot his name already. The fake Aquaman dude.
The
Uh,
Deep.
yeah, the Deep. He sexually assaults the girl, and everybody's set up to be sort of a jerk except for Homelander, where we see is like, oh well, he doesn't really have anything on him. But then right at the very end, it's like, nah, he's the worst of them all. So
Yeah.
wow, great
When I
reveal.
first saw him destroy that plane, I thought, okay, so he's obviously being brainwashed. That was like my first thought because like even when we see him behind closed doors, he's like, "So, please tell me, who did you save today?"
Yeah.
So he seemed like the only like genuine guy there, and then like you go deeper into the show, and like they show he's just like a terrible human being,
Hmm.
if he even is a human being.
Yeah. Nah, just straight despicable.
Yeah. And but like the other thing too is like as much as I hated his character, I found his character also to be like really interesting. Like
Yeah.
he like they write that fine line with Homelander that I don't think they do so well with, like a lot of the other seven,
Right.
where I hate him with a passion, but at the
Hmm.
same time I can fully understand why his character is the way he is.
Yeah. I mean, once they start going into a little bit of his origin, that's when you kind of, I won't say I sympathize with the guy, but you definitely do understand. It's like, well, he's lived his whole life around lab coats. He never really had a father figure or anybody to teach him right from wrong. He's a science experiment, so you kind of understand. It's like, well, that human connection he wouldn't have because he wasn't raised upon it.
Yeah, and he definitely has like some like Freudian like things going on because he has that one relationship with the president about.
Right.
where it's like it's very motherly like, but in a very weird and sexual way. So he's obviously still looking for that like parental figure in his life, which I found really interesting.
Yeah, I love that a lot about his character. And then just my favorite scene from the whole season involving him and Maeve was when they have to save the flight and how that goes
Oh
completely horrible.
yeah, that was difficult to watch because like it's interesting too because you remember from Superman Returns that like they're probably like pulling off that because like that was the most
Right.
iconic scene in the movie when that plane starts like crashing and so Superman lifts the plane and lands in the middle of a baseball stadium.
Hmm.
And this one like Homelander says I can't because I have nothing to stand on. I can't lift the plane. I don't whether or not that's true. I don't know. Maybe he just didn't feel like it. Knowing Homelander.
Yeah.
But like that was a heart wrenching scene because like Maeve, she's someone who at one point wanted to be a genuine superhero, and you see this like later on in the show. Like she wants to help people,
Right.
but she's seen how the whole corporate politics work. She's been behind the scenes, and she knows that's not how things work anymore.
Exactly.
So she's trying her best, like save as many people as she can, save one person, save two, maybe more. And Homelander's just like, no, we're not going to do that. That's going to make us look bad.
Yeah. Which I mean, overall, it's just a despicable situation he was involved in. But he was kind of right. It's like, well, if you save two out of the whole uh, cabin here, then those two are they're gonna tell like, yeah, they abandoned the rest of them. So,
Mm-hmm.
no, like he is very methodical, and he's not just going completely bananas just to be despicable. It's like he does think ahead, and why he comes out on top at the end of it this season, I would say.
Mm. Yeah, I would definitely agree. Like he definitely knows what he's doing. Like and like I kind of didn't like I said from the beginning I didn't expect that. I didn't
Mm.
expect him to be like so involved and like know just like how to like make them more popular.
Right.
And so like I found his character really interesting. He was definitely like my favorite character out of all of them, even though I hated him. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't say he's my favorite. He's the one I found the most interesting. I wouldn't say he's my favorite because I hate him.
Yeah. I mean, I guess he's my favorite because I hate him so much.
I don't know. It's like this weird fine line where like I hate him, but at the same time, he's like the most interesting character to explore.
Yeah,
So
I can agree with that.
yeah.
Um, so with the other characters, I guess for me the only other well, there's two other compelling characters for me throughout the show. One of them being Huey. I think he's a very endearing character. I like
Mm.
following him around.
Yeah, he's like the superhero fanboy where like he grew up loving a lot of these heroes. And
Hmm.
then like everything just like comes crashing down on him. Where like his girlfriend gets killed by A Train. He literally just like runs through her.
Yeah,
Which is like a really interesting take on like the Flash and like how dangerous his powers would be.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, like you said, his character is really endearing. I like his character arc of like of him learning to like stand up for himself.
Hmm.
And I really like that.
Yeah. And it's funny that you compared, yeah, like A Train and the Flash, just like how dangerous they can be. But I mean, we've seen in, I guess it's a different interpretation, of course, but we've seen it like with Quicksilver and Dash from The Incredibles, like their time moves relatively different than ours.
Hmm.
And I guess with A Train, he was high off the, shoot, I already forgot what they called the formula.
Compound V.
Right, yeah, yeah. So obviously he wouldn't have known any better, but you would think like he could see the girl standing directly in front of him just to like move to the side or move her out the way. But
Yeah. I mean, it's now that you bring it up, I would like to see them explore more how their powers work because even like we said, like we've seen Superman like lift a plane all by himself, and yet Homelander says he can't do it. And maybe for A Train, like time doesn't move slower for him. Maybe it just all moves at a normal pace, and he's just moving faster than everyone.
right,
So exploring that element, I like to see them explore that element more in season two, just like see how the powers work in this world compared to like all the other superheroes.
definitely.
Um, but yeah, Huey was definitely like one of the most enduring ones. Since we're on like the normal human characters, the boys as they call them.
Mm-hmm.
I also really like Carl Urban as Butcher, Billy
Yeah.
Butcher.
Okay.
Uh, he's just really entertaining. His accent is really enjoyable, and then he's like going around like calling everyone curse words, which is really funny.
Yeah.
Uh,
Words that we will not say because we do not want to be demonetized first.
yes, and my family listens to this, and that would be very awkward.
you can use your imagination as to what filthy words he says.
Yes. But like, he was just all around entertaining, and so like it kind of like pulls you in. It's like make you want to learn more about him as a character. And when
Right.
you get deeper into like his backstory and like his motivations, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I enjoyed him a lot. There was a point like a bit midway through the season where I was kind of getting annoyed with his character, just because of how selfish he was. But then as it goes on, it's like, okay, well, yeah, that's the point. And like you said, once you see like his motivations and why he wants to nail the Homelander so badly, it's like, okay, well, he's still a selfish character, but I get it. I get your intent in writing this character. So I think they
Mm,
did a good job with that also.
yeah. And then what do you think of the other two characters? We had Mother's Milk and Frenchie.
Frenchie, I liked a lot. Mother's Milk was cool too, but I felt like he was kind of sidelined in terms of the whole group. But
Mm,
I think he's hilarious. He's a good comic relief character in the sense that when we first are introduced to him, he's he's kind of built up to be like this very scary dude, arms dealer, gangster guy. I kind of got like Tuco vibes from Breaking Bad when we first meet him, but then as we see very shortly, it's like, oh no, this guy's actually mad cool and very funny and kind of wise also.
hmm
Character a lot.
Yeah, I definitely liked his relationship with the character whose name I forget, but like they find this like female character from I forget where exactly she's from.
I think her name is Kimiko, but yeah, I
Kimiko?
forgot. From.
But yeah, so she was part of this like terrorist organization somewhere in Asia, and eventually learned that she was kidnapped as a child and forced to fight in this group,
Right.
and then you like grow a lot closer. Like you, they start to like develop this friendship that I thought was like really well done. Those are like really heartfelt.
Hell yeah, and I
Yeah.
love that relationship between the two of them.
Mhm. So real quick, let's talk about some of the other heroes in the seven. So we have Starlight, who's the newcomer. She's like a country girl. And no, she's it's always been her dreams like being the seven, and then like as soon as she's in there, all her expectations just drop.
Yeah,
Um, what do you think of her character?
yeah. So when I said Huey was like the one other compelling character, Starlight, she was also the next one after him. Just because I really felt bad for her character, just in the same way as Huey, where it's like they grew up with idolizing the Seven and all these heroes, and then to grow up to find that your hero's just awful. And literally, her first day there, she's sexually assaulted, and it's like, wow, man. But she really wants this job, and she really does want to make a difference, so she sticks with it. And as you follow her character through the season, yeah, just great writing all around with her character. I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed her character arc. And I liked her like her interactions with Queen Maeve
Yeah.
because Queen Maeve, like the first time she meets Queen Maeve, like she just got out of the bathroom, she was like throwing up because she was just sexually assaulted. And
Mhm.
she sees Queen Maeve and Queen Maeve was like disgusted with her. She's like, clean yourself up.
Mhm.
And that like just like throws all like she becomes like so disappointed because like that was like one of her heroes.
Right.
And then like as you go out through the season, like they interact more and you learn more about like Queen Maeve's backstory and how she was in the same position as Starlight.
Yeah.
And how she had to sacrifice a lot because like she wanted to be in the seven and because she saw how things worked. But like
Yeah.
Starlight says, no, I'm not gonna put up with this. I'm gonna fight for what I believe in. I'm gonna be an actual superhero. I'm not gonna like deal with all this corporate politics stuff.
Right. Yeah, and I like the just the parallels between the two other characters, like you were saying. Just overall, like I said, I mean, I'm reiterating myself, but the writing is very strong with each of these characters here,
Mm,
and specifically to have like the two only females of the seven, and just to see like the different versions of them, like one who's been through this and is just desensitized to the whole surroundings, and then you have the new girl here who's uh, just witnessing it for the first time, but she's not willing to conform and just let it happen to her. She's actually wants to make a difference here. So I really do want to see where they explore that throughout season two.
mm. Yeah. And one of my favorite episodes, which is like very like centric on Starlight is the one where they go to like the Christian convention,
Yeah, that's
and
good.
she's forced to lie about like so many things that like she's done in her life just like to conform, like make the Christian populace happy. Um, and at the end, she just like completely breaks down. She says, "No, I'm not. I'm done lying. I'm done being unfaithful. I'm done. I'm gonna be who I am from now on."
Mhm.
And I really admired that, and like you definitely see that a lot nowadays, with like the Me Too movement.
Right.
So like that's like it's like drawing parallels to that, and like what happens in the real world, which I really liked.
Hmm. And that was a great episode too. And just overall, like the themes within that specific episode about religion and atheism. I'm a Christian myself, but I do question a few things. But I think this episode it was very nuanced in the way how they excuse me, in the way how they straddle the fence, where they don't necessarily go out their way to piss off any one particular side, but they do bring up interesting points on both sides. So whenever
Mm,
a show could do that and bring in real world dilemmas and themes, it's always a plus for me.
yeah. So let's continue talking about some of the other seven. Black Noir. Job. Moving on. Um, that because like that's legit all he does. Like he sits around, does nothing, and then Homelander is like, everyone here sucks except for you, Black Noir. You're doing great.
But that's
Which
why, oh, you say?
I don't know. Go ahead.
And I said that's what I really loved about him, just because he's like the perfect teammate for Homelander because he literally says nothing, just does what he's told, and then that's it. But
Mhm.
you really don't see him do anything
Yeah.
for the most part.
In a way, I feel like he's like. I mean, the whole team is like a satire of like the Justice League, but like they play on the fact how like everyone thinks Batman is just perfect. He's like very much the Batman character, and like everyone's like, "Oh, Batman can do no wrong. He's the smartest one on the team. He can defeat anyone." And
Right.
that's all Black Noir does in this movie. He does as he's told. He does everything perfectly. He doesn't have any problems.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really funny. I really enjoyed that.
And hilarious. And
Um,
we
then we
also
have the two weakest characters in my opinion of the show. Like if I have like any big complaints, it's definitely with these two characters. A Train and the Deep.
okay.
Um, Real quick, let's talk on A Train. Because he's the one who starts off like he's like the one who starts off the inciting incident of the whole show. By
Mm,
running through Huey's girlfriend.
right.
Um, I feel like in a way they tried to humanize him a bit too much. Which I feel like kind of like goes against like what they're going for with the whole show, with like kind of like villainizing a lot of these heroes.
Right.
Like they show him like going through a drug addiction and like having to like kill his girlfriend and stuff. And like it feels like as if the show wants me to feel bad for him, but at the same time, like we know that he's an insensitive jerk.
Mm.
So I don't none of that really like comes across for me.
Mm. Uh, well, I guess the way that I saw it was that the entire show, like one of the major themes is the tried and true good versus evil. We've seen many media, many films and TV shows like really go do that. Like, I mean, shoot, we've seen Game of Thrones. Literally every season is about who's good and who's bad, and what type of definition we can use for that. Um, and I think specifically with the seven here, we're very clearly supposed to hate them, like they're despicable people. But at the same time, I would say the scenes where we're supposed to sympathize with them is just to offer like, well, not everybody's truly evil. Like even the Homelander, like we were talking about earlier, he had a rough upbringing, which is what formed his character today. And then as far as with A Train, yeah, him going through his addiction with the drug, the formula, uh, it's definitely it wasn't enough for me to actually feel bad for him. And I hate to say it because I do like the actor. I just don't think Jesse T. Usher gave a very strong performance in this show. But overall, yeah, I did kind of feel like you, where it's like at the end of it all, I don't really care for A Train. If he had died by the end of the season, I wouldn't have cared at all. So,
Same. And I definitely think he has like one of the weakest scenes in the show where I feel like they were just kind of like forcing this message. Like in the last episode,
oh
he's in like a store like looking at shoes, and the security guard's following him around because he's black. Um, and then he like yells at the security guard. He's like, "Oh, don't you know who I am? I'm A Train. I'm the fastest man alive."
yeah. Hmm.
But I feel like that doesn't fit into the show at all, or the themes that it's going for. Just like talking about like racial prejudice.
Yeah, that was like actually I didn't write any notes for it, but that was the one thing that I do remember. Is like, yeah, this does not fit at all. Especially that was the last episode too, right?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, so it's just like, come on, I'm ready to wrap this up now. You're gonna throw this in here, and the show like before that scene, like they never really did anything as far as like racial prejudice. They didn't touch on that at all. So yeah, it did come out of left field to throw
Yeah.
that scene.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like with like superheroes, you can definitely like touch a lot on like racial prejudice because like if you look at a lot of like these superhero teams, I mean, look at the first Avengers movie, it's predominantly white,
Mm,
um, and so I mean the only POC character in there is I think Nick Fury. I don't remember anyone else in there, but other than that, like the main Avengers team is white.
right.
So you could definitely talk about like how race plays into like the superhero genre with a show like this, but they never do. So like when that scene does come, it feels out of left field.
Yeah, it was very unnecessary.
Mhm. And then we have the Deep, who like I said is I feel like his character is also has like the same issue as A Train, where at first he like they play him for this insensitive jerk. But then like as the show goes on, they want me to like care for him more, which I really don't, especially considering like one of the first like considering how he sexually assaults Starlight, and then they show that he's like just deeply depressed. Like, no, that doesn't fly with me.
Yeah, no, that was definitely like you said was the weakest character for me. Just the weakest power of the group too. I felt, and yeah, his characterization didn't really care for it at all.
Yeah. I will say though, the dolphin scene was pretty funny, where like the dolphin just like flew out the window and got ran by a truck.
It's funny because and I don't know why I know this information. I just remember it from middle school. But supposedly dolphins are like super horny all the time.
What?
So yeah, like they're always mating with each other and they're always horny. So there's just that extra layer to that whole sequence and
Yeah,
why it happened.
because the dolphin is like flirting with the deep, which is like really weird.
What do you say? You want me to stick your finger in his blowhole? Like, wow, it's
Wow.
so yeah, it is hilarious. But yeah,
Oh, thank you for that little tidbit, Jalen. Oh
I
God.
don't know why I know that, why I remember that, but it was always fascinating to me.
Wow. Um, So overall thoughts on the seven. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it definitely leaves some things open for season two, where like they reveal that Butcher's wife is still alive, and
Yeah,
she has Homelander's kid. So I'm interested in seeing where that goes. Um,
gonna
yeah,
be very.
I really enjoyed the season. I recommend it, and yeah.
Just take what you said, copy and paste it. I loved it. Um, I would say like there were certain aspects where I felt like the writing wasn't of quality, but there's only very few and far in between. And some of the performances I felt were a little wonky, particularly with the A Train character. But
Mhm.
overall, like they had its goal. There are 8 episodes. It's very focused. I definitely recommend giving it a watch. I do. I plan on watching it again. And yeah, like you said, I can't wait for season two and where they go from there. So yeah, two thumbs up.
Awesome. So from there, let's talk about some news that came out. Recently there was a rumor that there's going to be an Obi-Wan TV show, Obi-Wan Kenobi, on Disney Plus.
Hmm.
So from there, let's just talk about like the show and Star Wars as a whole. What Lucasfilm is currently doing with Star Wars under the Disney era, under their overlords, the Mouse. Um, so Jalen, would you be looking forward to an Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, of all the, because I remember, I don't know if it was rumored or I think it was rumored, but it's mostly been like fans wishing for it.
Hmm.
But the Obi Wan like Star Wars story, like that was like the one I was looking forward to the most. Um, just because there's so much they could do with the story of Obi Wan after Revenge of the Sith. Um, and now that we're having a TV show with it, supposedly supposed to be 6 to 8 episodes long, you get to spend more time with him. Hopefully that means we could delve into his character more. And with Ewan McGregor returning with it, which who I think out of the prequels, he was like the one good thing out of it all.
Mm.
Uh, so yeah, I'm very much looking forward to what they do with this.
Yeah. I've always wanted a Obi-Wan Kenobi movie. I don't think I've been as passionate about it as other people, mainly because like I want more original stories out of
Right.
the like Star Wars anthology films and whatnot. But like out of all the ones, like they're gonna try and like force down our throats. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi seems like the one that's most likely to be great.
Right.
Because even like the solo movie, I did enjoy it, but at the same time, it was unnecessary. And then like they teased the spin-off at the end with like the Darth Maul cameo, and
I
I hated that with a passion.
I did not like that either. Everyone
Yeah,
loved it though, which was weird. Like they hated the movie, but they loved that Darth Maul was in it. I was like, what? I'm the exact opposite.
I don't know. That's just like the whole like Marvel, how like Marvel's influencing like franchises and whatnot, like how everything has to be connected. Yeah, it's like tease all your spin-offs.
Yep. Yeah,
But
TV.
yeah, I'd be very much looking forward to an Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show. My only issue would be that like I don't want them to force in Darth Maul, because his Darth Maul is weird in the whole Star Wars canon because he quote unquote died in the Phantom Menace. Then in the Clone Wars TV show, which I've only seen like the first three seasons of,
Right.
he's alive. He has robot legs. I think he has like spider legs, which is interesting at first, and then he gets like regular legs.
Hmm.
But yeah, he's alive in the show, and like he has a whole arc that I hear is pretty good. Then he's back in Rebels, and then he dies in Rebels. So we know when he's gonna die. So if you're gonna force in Darth Maul into an Obi-Wan Kenobi show, because everybody thinks they're like mortal enemies, and I never saw that.
Hmm.
Um, but if you're gonna force that into an Obi-Wan Kenobi show, I just think that's gonna be really weak, considering we know that Obi-Wan Kenobi does kill Darth Maul.
I mean, that's the thing. Because for me, my knowledge of Star Wars only exists within the movies itself.
Mm,
Um, like I've watched the first season of Star Wars Rebels. I actually liked it too. And Clone Wars I used to watch years ago when it was on Cartoon Network when I was a kid, but I never really kept up with it. And yeah, all the extended lore with the books and whatnot, I'm completely knowledgeable about at all, unknowledgeable about.
mm,
So yeah, all my knowledge with Star Wars exists in the movies, and so the character of Darth Maul to me, he's always seemed like the weak link because I guess in the same sense that Boba Fett, where it's like, yeah, he looks cool, just doesn't do much in it. So I don't understand what's all the hype about with him. And
yeah,
I would say like if they do include him in the show, it would be their chance. Well, I guess not because like you were saying that supposedly he has great characterization in the Clone Wars and Rebels show. But
mm,
for me, it would be like it would be their chance to actually do right by the character. But I could take him or leave him. I really just care about Obi-Wan and just his storyline uh, before A New Hope. So
yeah. I'm in the same boat as you, whereas like I haven't really read a lot of like the Star Wars comics or books or like anything outside of the movies and like a little bit of the TV shows.
right,
So I mean, I didn't know about the whole Darth Maul thing because like everybody on like on my social media talks about it.
yeah,
Like all like this extended Star Wars lore. So like he does die like season three of Rebels, and I've seen like the actual scene where he dies, and like it's really well done because like it harkens back to like older like Akira Kurosawa samurai movies,
yeah.
which I thought was really cool. But yeah, if they are gonna make an Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show, please no Darth Maul. Come up with a new villain or something. But overall, I'd be very excited for an Obi-Wan show.
Yeah. And I mean, this part was like specifically just fan wish fulfillment, but a lot of people were throwing out like their ideas, like, oh, you can make a Logan style movie with Obi Wan. Um, because I guess we can assume that he would be on the planet Tatooine watching over Luke. So just him in the desert and him going on his adventures as a almost old hermit. That would
Mm,
be interesting to see them explore there. Just him going through his adventures as he's aging and almost jaded. But then again, I guess they did that with Luke, and not a lot of people loved it. So
yeah. I mean, here's the thing I think is most interesting to explore with Obi-Wan, if I were to like write the show or a movie or whatever it's gonna be,
mm,
is that like he taught the most dangerous man in the galaxy how to use the Force,
right,
and he believed in him, and that entirely blew up in his face.
Hmm.
So now, like for me, if I were like writing this, like if he's now like watching over Luke, and he could be scared that that he's not right to like mentor anyone,
Right.
that maybe he's not the one who should watch over Luke, but at the same time, who you're gonna turn to? All the galaxy are all the Jedi's in the galaxy are supposedly dead. Yoda went off to Dagobah, do God knows what. So he feels like this immense responsibility is like not make the same mistakes he'd made with like Anakin, but at the same time he's scared he's not like the right person to do the job. I just feel like a lot of that is like really interesting to explore
Right.
in an Obi-Wan movie.
It's actually perfect for what they could do. You should just write a spec script just for the hell of it.
Maybe I should, yeah. Um, but moving on from Obi-Wan Kenobi, let's just talk about Star Wars in general because I love me some Star Wars.
Okay.
So overall, do you like what Lucasfilm has been doing with Star Wars under the Disney umbrella?
For the most part, I would say yes. And I think it's mostly just tied in with the movies. Because we harken back to 4 years ago with The Force Awakens, and obviously there's a lot of hype around that one because it's the first Star Wars movies in 10 years, and it's a sequel to the franchise that we haven't seen since like 30 years prior. So obviously that was gonna have a lot of hype, and for me it lived up to the hype. And I know a lot of people's complaints about it was that, well, it's just a New Hope rehash, which yeah it is, but it was a safe way for Disney to try to revitalize the franchise. And then since then, I felt like they've been doing a pretty decent job with their films. With Rogue One, I liked a lot. Last Jedi, I liked a lot, and even Solo, I'm not too crazy about it, but it's an enjoyable film. So the movie side of it, I think for me, they didn't do much wrong with me with their and its other spectrums of entertainment, specifically their video games. I felt like they dropped the ball with its Star Wars property. Just solely handing it over to EA, I think, was a big mistake. But that's what are you gonna do about that? And I guess we have to wait to see how the TV shows plan out, because they're bringing back Clone Wars, and well, I think the Star Wars Resistance show got canceled, so I don't know what they're doing with that. But as far as the movies go, yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with what they're doing so far.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat. I love The Force Awakens. I remember, so I didn't watch Star Wars, the first three movies until I was 14.
Okay.
So I got into like the Star Wars hype in like the year of 2014. That was just like a big year for me because that's like when I really found my passion for films. We talked about this like in the very first podcast.
Right.
Like Star Wars inspired my love of film.
Uh-huh.
And just like me wanting to like, explore film, make films. So I saw the first three Star Wars movies. I loved them with a passion. And
Mm-hmm.
so, then I learned there's a new Star Wars movie come out. Like, wait, what? I gotta see this. And
Mm-hmm.
so I remember that first trailer dropped. I was so excited. Then like the second trailer and the third trailer. And at the time I didn't have a job and I had no money. So of course I had to ask my mom to buy the tickets for me. Um, and it's October, and I'm like, Mom, you gotta buy the Star Wars tickets.
Mm-hmm.
Alex, it doesn't come out to December. Why do I have to buy the tickets now? I'm like, Mom, you have to buy the tickets. Buy the tickets. And so I finally convinced her to buy the tickets in early October. Couldn't get to a Friday screen because it was all sold out. We were lucky to get to a Saturday one, like early in the morning. Um, and I just remember that was like one of my all-time like favorite movie theater experiences.
Right.
That was up there with like the first Avengers for me, whereas like I was like extremely hyped. I was part of this like huge crowd. The crowd was into it. And it was a blast. Force
Mm-hmm.
Awakens, I think it's great. Yeah, it is a rehash of New Hope. But like that's kind of the point, especially like if you look at it compared to like The Last Jedi. Because like my whole thing with like the saga films of late, the new trilogy,
Mm-hmm.
what I love about it so much is it's kind of like this meta story about like Star Wars fandom as a whole.
Right.
About like the how we see Han, Luke, and Leia as legends, and how we look up to them to like inspire us. So like rehashing A New Hope and The Force Awakens, that's like, us the fans being able to like do what our heroes did, and learning from them and growing as our own people.
Right.
Rogue One, I thought was okay. And it suffers a lot with like how sloppy the editing feels. It feels like rushed together.
It
Um,
is copy.
yeah, especially because like a lot of like the reshoots they had. And then I feel like the character development is kind of weak. So the first
Yeah.
two acts are meh, but then like you get that final act, and that final act is amazing, mind-blowingly great action.
So
Um, yeah, and then you get like the Darth Vader scene. That scene's terrifying.
so cool though.
Yeah. Last Jedi, I love that. I loved Last Jedi. I think it's the second best Star Wars movie after The Empire Strikes Back. I get a lot of hate for that amongst friends. I'm amongst my friend group. I'm the one with a bad taste in movies because I love The Last Jedi. Who cares what I think about all these other movies, all these other great movies? No, he likes The Last Jedi.
It's about
Um,
to be the worst movie of all time, Alex. How can you like that garbage?
I don't know. I just like what I like. My favorite part is when Luke gets the milk from the cow thing. Everybody hates that. I love it. Like Star Wars is weird again. Let it be weird.
Blue milk. I want to go to the Star Wars land just to see how that tastes.
Oh, same. Yeah, and then you can like apparently like build your own lightsaber and stuff. That's great.
That does seem cool. A lot of money.
Um, oh yeah. And then Solo, I thought was okay. Um, it was like I like a lot of the like the special effects. A lot of that was like top notch.
Hmm.
Um, and it's like a fun adventure film. But ultimately kind of forgettable and doesn't really add a lot to the Han Solo character.
Not at all.
And I definitely feel like in terms of like performances, especially Donald Glover as Lando and Alden Ehrenreich, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, as
Yeah,
Han Solo. It feels more like impersonations instead of them doing their own thing. But overall, it's a fun movie.
yeah. Well, I
Uh,
think I'm sorry to catch up, but I do agree with the whole impersonations thing with Solo, because that's the kind of thing that kind of held me back from like actually really getting into it that much. But they kind of shot themselves in the foot there, because I mean you're doing a movie about Han Solo, you know. Everybody already ties Harrison Ford with Solo and Billy D. Williams with Lando, so you recast them even if they're younger, it's gonna be kind of a tough act to follow. So I think really they should kind of stay away from those prequel type movies. But
I agree. I mean, I think the other thing too is that and like this is like something that like really annoyed me with Solo and like the whole Darth Maul thing is that they want to do a Marvel style cinematic universe where it's like characters you know and love,
right,
like having their own spin-off movies. But I feel like if you do that, you're gonna inevitably make the universe feel smaller. And I feel like the
oh,
main difference between Marvel and Star Wars is that Star Wars is all one singular genre. It's sci-fi, fantasy, space opera.
right,
With Marvel, it's you have a World War II movie, you have Norse mythology,
oh,
that turns into like this weird Flash Gordon thing. You have the space opera with Guardians of the Galaxy. You have African royalty with Black Panther. You have so much that's going on, and so when you connect it, it doesn't feel small because like
right,
there's much more going on behind the scenes.
exactly,
With Star Wars, it's yeah, like I said, space opera. All of them are space operas. So if you connect Darth Maul to Han Solo and then Han Solo to Emperor Palpatine, let's say, like it's all gonna feel super small. I feel like they should put a lot more of the focus on original Star Wars stories, which is why I'm really looking forward to like the Mandalorian.
right.
I'm glad they're not doing a Boba Fett movie because I don't care about Boba Fett.
I, I've while we're on that, I honestly think Boba Fett is kind of just like super overrated, where everybody praises him, but when you look at it, the guy literally did nothing. He just
Yeah.
sat there and then died.
I don't even think it's like the movie's fault. Because like he's in Empire Strikes Back for a little bit as like side character, and
Mhm.
even in Return of the Jedi, just a side character. Like they obviously know he's not like this main character. They know that he has
Yeah.
nothing of significance to the story overall. But then
Hmm.
like everyone's like, oh look at him, he's so cool. He has this great piece of armor. And it's just like, I mean, yeah, he looks cool, but like he has no personality.
Well, I mean, even to the point where it's like when Bosk has a fan base, that's how you know it's like, all right, Star Wars fans, you guys are weird, man. Like you guys
Yeah.
love every little detail in these films.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's great, but at the same time, you gotta know that, like, for storytelling, as much as you love, like, a lot of, like, the background characters, and that's what makes Star Wars so great,
Yeah.
because, there's this story of, like, Luke, Han, and Leia, but, like, if you just look at the background of these scenes,
Mhm.
there's so much detail to it, which is, I love. But at the
Yeah.
same time, you gotta differentiate from, like, the background details and the main story.
Exactly. 100% agree.
But yeah, like I was saying, like if you start connecting every small character, then you're gonna make inevitably make the universe feel smaller.
Right.
So I want to see new characters. I want to see new stories. I want to see them do something different. I want to see them do pull a Marvel and take take like this story that you think and flip on its head. Make a Flash Gordon-esque movie, or do something weird with Star Wars. Make it a different genre.
I think I guess since we're talking about our feelings of Star Wars overall, that's kind of like its big glaring flaw, I think, with it. In that, yeah, 4 years ago, the whole idea of Star Wars is back because, we were burnt on the prequels and everybody just wanted that feeling of old school Star Wars. And they've definitely succeeded with that film. It's just that I felt like since then they kind of got carried away with trying to harken back to the original trilogy.
Mhm.
Because literally, when you think about it, every film that they've created, and even with their games, everything's connected with that the original trilogy. Um, it has to deal with the Death Star. It deals with after the whole Republic command and the Sith Lords after Order 66, whatnot. And so when you focus all your storytelling around that specific era, it does kind of limit you to the type of stories you can tell. Like I felt like after this, and they did say that they're gonna take a 3 year break after Episode 9, and then go into D&D's trilogy. That should be like a time jump, like way past everything that we've experienced here, just
Mhm.
to get something new. Like enough with the Empire and what are the Rebels and the
The
First Order,
Resistance.
yeah, and the Resistance. Like just jump past all of that and let's start telling some new Star Wars stories. Because I do agree with you. Like it does feel like a very small universe where everything revolves around Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. It's like I like it of course because I love these characters, but I am ready to see something new with Star Wars. So let's hope that they can actually fulfill that.
Yeah, and that's why I love The Last Jedi so much. Because like they acknowledge the fact with that movie that it's all just repeating itself. All we want is the Emperor and Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker all over again.
Hmm.
And that movie tells you those stories are great, but at the same time, we can also look forward to new stories with new characters.
Right.
Rey isn't a Luke Skywalker; she's her own individual person. She's a nobody, but at the same time, she can become a somebody. You know.
Hmm.
And like they show like Kylo Ren isn't a repeat of Darth Vader. He's his own person. He might be related to him. He might look idolize him, but at the same time, he's a whole new different person. And like that's what they do with a lot of these characters in the Last Jedi. So
Right.
all of y'all can hate on it as much as you want. I love the Last Jedi.
And I said the Last Jedi. I mean, while we're talking about that, I remember when it came out, and I saw it that Friday night. I got off for work, and I went to go see it by myself because I didn't feel like waiting for my friends or whatnot.
Mm,
And I'm sitting there, I'm watching it, and I'm like, you know what? I was expecting something else, but I'm really, really enjoying this. And the crowd was loving it. Everybody clapped at the end. When we're getting out, I'm talking with a few fans about it, and we're having a good time. I get home, I log on Twitter, I see The Last Jedi is trending. I'm like, oh, I guess everybody seemed to love this movie. Oh my god, what was this? This movie sucks. Oh my god, Ryan Johnson, more like Ruin Johnson. I'm like, whoa, it felt like I stepped in a Twilight Zone. I'm like, this movie, I thought it was great. What's wrong with it? And everybody has their reasonings, of course, but for me, it was just like the stuff that people hated about it. I kind of felt the exact opposite. Like, I love what they done with Luke. I love what they did with Kylo Ren and Rey and their whole parallel story. Just for me, it was a great movie with flaws, of course, but the way people hate on it, calling it the worst Star Wars movie, specifically when the Phantom Menace exists,
mhm.
it's mind baffling to me. I don't get it.
Yeah, I definitely feel like the I feel like there's like just like this big misunderstanding between Star Wars fans and The Last Jedi, where a lot of people see The Last Jedi as an attack on Star Wars fandom, where it's like the Star Wars movie that hates Star Wars. And I feel like you're just not understanding the movie at all because it's not a Star Wars movie that hates Star Wars. It's a Star Wars movie that loves Star Wars. It's made by someone who grew up on these movies and
Mm-hmm.
who sees these heroes for what they are, these like legends for what they are, and he's trying to show that how much these heroes have inspired him and
Right.
how he wants them to inspire more people. And honestly, like whenever I watch the movie, I don't know, it lifts my spirits a lot because it's all about, showing how the fans can rise up to be heroes just like Luke, Han, and Leia, how you can do so much more. I like it's not just Star Wars isn't just for Han, Luke, and Leia, it's for everyone. everyone can be that hero.
Hmm. You can wear the mask.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it is a lot like Spider Verse in that sense, and I find that interesting. We're exploring a lot of that in this age where we're looking back on things a lot more nostalgically. Where we're taking all these like franchise films and we're looking at the past and showing how how that inspires us to move on in the future.
Right. And I definitely agree with all that. And yeah, like you said, like I felt like The Last Jedi, it's definitely it was sort of much necessary needed film in the saga because while I don't think it did much to really shake up the storytelling of Star Wars, it did enough just for the overall lore of Star Wars. So it's like we need something new. We need uh, everything your nostalgia of the film and of these characters. We gotta like twist it around and make you see a new perspective on it. And you know what they do with the Rise of the Skywalker, I'm very much looking forward to it. Just because I want to see where these characters go from here, and just with the franchise as a whole, like let's start seeing some new things, guys. So yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know why they get so much hate.
With Rise of the Skywalker, I'm not gonna. I am looking. I love the trailer. I loved 95% of it. Right.
Okay.
So then I'm watching the trailer. You get that great opening moment with like Ray and the Tie Fighter. I really like that. I really liked a lot of the imagery. I said it looked like Star Wars Fury Road or Mad Max Rise of the Skywalker or the Rise of Skywalker, whatever it's called. I thought it looked great. Then you get to like the final bit, and then hear the Palpatine laugh, and then you see the Rise of Skywalker. I was like, I don't know, because the main thing I love about Last Jedi is how it's saying we can look to the past and still move on to the future. How we can like look to these stories inspire us,
Mm,
and how we can still create new stories. But then with the title reveal and the Palpatine laugh, it seems like they're just trying to harken back to these old stories again, instead of like trying to do something different. And I'm just scared because like they got J.J. Abrams back, and I don't dislike him as a director. I've enjoyed a lot of his films.
right.
I love, like I said, I love The Force Awakens. At the same time, he's a very safe director. Um, he's not really one to take a big risk. And so I feel like after Last Jedi Backlash, I can see why they brought him back. But at the same time, I'm hoping like this is like his riskiest film, where he continues to explore the themes of Last Jedi, instead of like going back on them.
Yeah. Well, without a doubt, I think you can't rehash Return of the Jedi. Like, I think they already know that. That's a big no-no.
I mean,
But
technically they already did, in the Last Jedi. Like they rehashed it while subverting your expectations at the same time.
yeah, well, yeah, I guess that is kind of true in a sense. But I was thinking more of like in a character sense, where it's like you can't really, like, I don't know what they're gonna do with Kylo Ren, but I think a redemption for him, for me, I think is kind of off the table at this point. But
Mhm.
I don't know. They could always surprise me.
Yeah, I don't know. He had his moment for redemption. That's the whole point of like the throne room scene in the Jedi and not Jedi, Last Jedi. There we go. Where they're having this Return of the Jedi moment, and like it's supposed to mirror Darth Vader's redemption.
Yeah,
How like everything's supposed to pan out again. Everything's supposed to be the same.
right.
He's supposed to get redeemed, and then he doesn't. He says, "No, I'm taking over. I'm in charge now. I'm Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, or Supreme Leader Ren." Yeah, that sounds better. Um,
I
and
like.
so it's like they said his redemption is done. It's not happening. So if they do redeem him in Rise of Skywalker, I'm gonna be very disappointed.
Yeah, same. Because and I kind of get a lot of hate for this too. When I tell my friends this, but and even my dad, because well, actually my love for Star Wars comes through from my dad, because he would show me the his VHS tapes back in the day, and that's when we used to watch it. And he's a fan of the sequel trilogy as well. But when I tell him that I like Kylo Ren more than Darth Vader, I think Kylo Ren's a more compelling character than him. That's when everybody starts flipping. I was like, oh my god, what are you talking about?
But guys, it's the truth.
I think so, because honestly, the way I look at him, he's kind of what George Lucas wanted to do with Anakin in the prequel, where they wanted to show a very conflicted man who's having trouble balancing the Force on the light and the dark, and they take it even just a step further. I mean, he's not murdering younglings or anything like that, but the dude killed his father, and he still doesn't know if he's evil or good. So for me personally, he's my favorite character of just Star Wars in general so far. But yeah, what were we talking? Oh, so anyways, going back to yeah, what
Yeah,
they
it's
do.
the weird thing with Star Wars. I'm sorry to cut you off. Like you go down this big rabbit hole. Like there's so much going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an expansive universe with so many characters. It's like I understand people are burnt on it, but for me, I can never like dislike Star Wars. It's always going to be something that I find interesting with it.
Yeah, I definitely think after we finish recording, I'm gonna like pop in the Star Wars DVDs again because I'm like, man, I want to watch it again.
Hmm. But yeah, as far as with Rise of the Skywalker, it's like, yeah, I hope they don't play it safe. Like, I would hope they continue what Ryan Johnson was trying to do with The Last Jedi and what he succeeded in doing. But just because I felt like, I don't know if it's majority of the fans, but every time I go online and when I look at that Rotten Tomato audience score, it's like it does seem like a large portion of the fan base kind of rejected this movie,
Yeah,
which is unfortunate.
I mean,
But
I definitely. It's so weird. It's how like the receptions like Last Jedi because so it's been proven that like a lot of the Rotten Tomato user score was like very skewered because like everybody's like trying to attack Disney with like their quote unquote SJW propaganda.
hmm
First of all, there's like I can go on for like a massive rant about Disney and their quote unquote SJW propaganda. But like I'm not gonna go into that right now because that's just like a whole nother conversation. Because at the same time, should Disney be held accountable? Yes, but for all the not for not the quote unquote SJW propaganda.
oh
Um, but going beyond that, so like even like Black Panther got a hit on the user score. Like, it's like at 79%. But like if you look at the way people received it, like it's probably way bigger than that. Like I said, people like really are going against Disney.
yeah,
But Last Jedi made over $1 billion, made like 1.3 billion. I think it currently has like an A cinema score. So like the general audience does really enjoy it. And
oh,
then if you look at the Rise of Skywalker when that premiered, I think it was at D23 or whatever. When the trailer premiered, like everybody was cheering, like, everybody was happy because like Star Wars is back again.
hmm
So I definitely think the hype is there. I definitely think people are going to see Rise of Skywalker no matter what. And you know what? "Quote unquote," Ruin Johnson still has his own trilogy he's making. So if it was that bad, they take away his trilogy like they took away Justice League from Zack Snyder. So
yeah. Or even like how they fired Colin Trevorrow off of Episode 9 when
exactly.
Book of Henry came out, which god awful movie. But yeah, no, like I do think like the loud uh the loudest people are probably not the majority, but it's just the way it's perceived. I guess well the internet is in its own little bubble, so I can't say it's the same how it is in real life. But I guess even when you look at like the legs that the Last Jedi had, it is kind of lower than the rest of the Star Wars films. But still, it made over $1 billion. So I think Star Wars is still in good hands. And people always try to justify like, oh well, Solo bombed. It's like, oh yeah, nobody wanted a Solo movie, and it
Yeah.
came out just 5 months after the Last Jedi. So
Yeah,
I
there's so many factors into like why Solo didn't do all that well.
yeah,
So I think it's gonna be very different from like the actual like saga films and like anything original they make.
yeah. I mean, Star Wars it's coming out. Well, Rise of the Skywalker is coming out the Christmas time, so obviously it's gonna make big bucks. It's just
Excuse
can
me, Cats is gonna destroy Rise of
they?
Skywalker at the box office.
Well, you joke about that, but I still stand by that Catch is gonna do pretty well, and I think it is gonna be received well by the general audience. It looks awful, don't get me wrong, but I've seen like so many times just this year alone where it's like the trailer comes out, this looks god awful, and then it comes out and it makes $1 billion. So I stand by Catch is gonna do well, but as far as Rise of the Skywalker goes, all they have to really do is just stick the landing, make a very satisfying film. Uh, that's just going to be very enjoyable, I think. Um, and yeah, I mean, I don't really have much in the way of like expectations. Like, I'm not expecting this to be like the best. It's concluding the whole Skywalker trilogy, the whole Skywalker saga. It has to be the best Star Wars movie. It's like, no, just be enjoyable, give me good characterization, stick the landing, and you guys, you did it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So yeah, so I feel like that's all we really have to say about Star Wars. Maybe we'll talk about it more before Rise of Skywalker comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll release a video because I love Star Wars. We'll see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so from there, let's just go into what we've seen this week. Jalen, you and I have seen a movie that was recently released in theaters, Good Boys.
Oh yeah, right.
So let's both talk about that real quick. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, so I guess I'll start off by saying that the trailers kind of misled me, in that I thought that this movie would be just some juvenile, uh, raunchy comedy with the gimmick of kids saying bad words, and for the most part, it kind of is, but for the most other part, it's actually a very heartfelt story with actually smart jokes within it. And yeah, I walked out really enjoying this film.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Well, not exactly the same boat. Because I saw who was producing it. It was produced by the writers of Superbad, Seth Rogen, and
Evan
I
Gold,
forget the other person's name. What was it?
Evan Goldberg, I think.
Okay, yeah. And I just like a lot of the comedies like coming from the Judd Apatow crew. Steve Carell, Paul Rudd, Jonah Hill, and all of them.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of their comedies are very raunchy. Like they lean very heavily on like cursing and sex jokes. But at the
Hmm.
same time, you're gonna get a story that's like very heartfelt because like that's they know what draws people. Like what really draws people into like their films. Like yeah, the jokes are great, but at the same time, you actually feel something for these characters.
Right.
So I saw the trailers. I laughed a lot. I thought the trailers were great.
Mm.
And I was all for juvenile humor because, as grown up as I am, we all enjoy a very juvenile joke every now and then.
Yeah, of course.
So I thought, yeah, kids cursing and making sex jokes. This looks fun.
Hmm.
And I got what I expected. This was a very fun movie. And with like you said, with a lot of heart. And very relatable too, because I haven't been in the exact same scenario as these kids.
Oh,
Um, this is like very exaggerated story of like the middle school years, but like a lot of it is relatable. Like
mm,
just like you're a kid, but you're not a teenager yet. You're in this
right.
weird middle stage. Um, and you're just like you're trying to like figure things out. And a lot of that was very relatable.
Hmm. Yeah, it was funny because I was joking about it with my little brother because he's about to start middle school this upcoming semester here. But I was saying like, oh yeah, this is the R-rated Wimpy Kid movie. I think you should probably see it. Give you a good experience.
Oh yeah, that's the perfect way to explain it. The R-rated Wimpy Kid movie.
But yeah,
Um,
I thought it was just a very heartfelt film, just about growing up. And yeah, like you said, it's very relatable just growing up in middle school. We all had, our crush on the girls. We've always had trying to be something that we're not because we're afraid of how people would probably make fun of us. But at the end of the day, it's just like, well, just be yourself. As corny as it sounds, just do you, and the people that actually like you will follow. So I think it really did a good job in spreading its message with this film.
yeah, and I feel like a lot of the characters that you do see in Good Boys are characters like you definitely saw in middle school with Thor like being this like super edgy. I curse a lot and I have an earring and I make up all these lies to make myself seem cool. I saw that like in like my latter years of elementary school and early years of middle school. And
Which
Lucas is like that one weird kid who's like way too innocent. Like I was always friends. Somehow I was always friends with that one kid. And
elementary.
I don't regret it. They were always nice. So,
Hmm. Yeah, I mean,
um,
sometimes he's a bit too honest, but yeah, he's a good dude to stick around with.
yeah, and he's automatically my favorite character because of like the amount of respect he has for women. Where like Jacob Tremblay's character is about to like kiss the doll, and he's
Uh,
like, "Wait, you didn't ask for consent. Always ask for consent first." Like, my man, the feminist.
there was even that joke that they had when they're trying to make the drug deal, and then the frat boy tells him, "You could SMD and she could SMD." He's like, "Whoa, first you can't do that, man. You have to ask her first." It's like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah, I really like that kid, and then, like he's so innocent. He's so much so childlike, which like you definitely see that kid in middle school. Because like I said, it's like it's a weird growing pain.
Yeah,
Because you're not a teenager yet, and you're not a kid. You're just like you're trying to figure out what you are.
right, exactly. Yeah, I always
Um,
middle school. I had a fun time whenever I look back to it, but it was definitely like just because it was between elementary and high school. It's like yeah, it was a kind of rough moments in those 3 years. But I mean, look, we're in college now. I'm about to graduate, and it's like you look back on it, it's like yeah, none of it really mattered though.
yeah, And everyone's like, oh, it's just kids like cursing and making inappropriate jokes.
Mm.
What's I that's not right. And I'm like, well, have you ever been to middle school?
Yeah,
That's all middle school is.
it's just a bunch of perverts in middle school.
Yeah. I mean, you can't deny it. Like that's how everyone was in middle school.
Yeah,
Like you think you're cool because you say a curse word or you make a certain joke or because you watched an R-rated movie without your parents' permission.
yeah, yeah.
Mom, if you're listening to this, I never did that. I'm innocent.
I've
Um,
done it all.
but that's just middle school. Like there's no hiding it.
Yeah, no, of course. And just having that realistic approach to it. And I just want to go back to like when I was saying I saw the trailer and I thought it was a bit too gimmicky. What I really meant by that was just like I hope they didn't really over it didn't overstay its welcome where it's like every 5 seconds a kid's dropping an F bomb or whatever. Because after a while, like the first few times it's funny, of course, and just because it's so true. But if they continue doing it throughout like the whole script, then for me it kind of loses its value. Luckily, with this film, like they definitely know when to set the boundaries with it, where they don't go too overboard with it. They don't get too raunchy or too graphic. I think it's like the right amount. What they pulled off here.
Mhm. Yeah. So overall, Good Boys gets the stamp of approval from the film school snobs. We really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And so moving on from there, Jalen, what else have you seen this week?
Oh, so I actually saw two films this past week outside of Good Boys, and I'm just gonna talk about them back to back because they're two films I don't really care about. One film you actually reviewed on the last episode, and that's Dora the Explorer, and the other one being Angry Birds 2. Yeah, I took my kids to see it, just to get them out the house and to see something, just to hang out with them. Um, and I wasn't expecting much from either of those movies. I know you was saying that Dora wasn't that bad, but it could have been better. So I was
Mm.
like, all right, I guess I'll check it out. And same thing with Angry Birds, I didn't care because I didn't like the first one that much. But I have to say though, like after seeing both those films, I actually did enjoy, have a good time watching both of them. I guess speaking with Angry Birds, you get what you get. It's a movie about the Angry Birds app. I don't know if you're expecting such a great story or anything really with it, but what it does have a few great laughs in it. Nothing that was like belly rolling hilarious, but yeah, it got a few good chuckles out of me, some good laughs. Yeah, the one thing I would say is like their soundtrack. I felt like that's what they kind of put all their focus on because it's like every 5 minutes they have a track, such a famous pop track, and it's like, oh, you like this song, so therefore you like this movie, right? It's like, nah, I see what you guys are doing. You're not gonna trick me here. I'm already having a
I
good.
I mean that's just what they do with like a lot of like the lazy animation movies, like from like a lot of Illumination stuff. It's like, oh, throw in a pop song, the kids will like it.
Yeah, exactly. And well, even speaking of Illumination, this movie it does that thing that Illumination movies does. What I hate was they take the Nickelodeon format where it's like, well, we'll have our main story here. Now let's have these little side plots that has nothing to connect with the main story here. It's like a little short special that we thrown in for you guys, a little extra treat. It's like, no, I didn't need this. You're just padding out the film to make it longer here. It's like, can we fast forward past this? It has nothing to do with anything. Um, but yeah, overall, it's like it's a kids animation film. It was fun, had some good jokes in it, and the voice cast too. I thought was pretty well. They're pretty good. You have Jason Sudeikis as the main Redbird. Josh Gad is in it. Danny McBride. Um, and then for the new characters, you had Leslie Jones and Tiffany Haddish in here, who they kind of do that thing where it's like the sassy black woman, but at this point you kind of just know like, well, that's Leslie Jones and Tiffany Haddish's shtick. So kind of just take it or leave it. But I think it works well in here, and they've all done a pretty decent job. But yeah, Angry Birds 2, yeah, not as bad as I expected it to be. I actually kind of liked it. And then same thing with Dora, where it's like, yeah, I wasn't expecting much from it, and this is not my demographic, but I'll check it out. And yeah, it's a fun film. Pretty much what you said last week, I'll just copy and paste it. You can just guys just listen to that old episode because I'm just gonna reiterate the same thing. Except I probably liked it a little more than you did, just because I felt like it harkened back to Indiana Jones a lot. specifically, I felt like it had the same story plot for plot of The Last Crusade, uh, and that's like my favorite indie movie. So they kind of got away with that, and yeah, I thought it was a fun film. So Angry Birds and Dora, two movies I wouldn't have expected to like or to even see, but yeah, I enjoyed them. So yeah.
Awesome. So I'm gonna talk about a movie that I saw a couple of days ago. A Hong Kong action film, Police Story, starring Jackie Chan. I've heard a lot about this movie. And I was just like scrolling through Criterion Channel one day, and I saw it. I'm like, well, I've never seen it, so I guess I'll check it out. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. The main thing you're gonna talk about with any Jackie Chan movie is Jackie Chan himself, because that dude is just like a powerhouse in terms of like physical acting. Because he manages to like balance both his stunts and his action with his comedy, which I think is absolutely amazing. Because within the first couple minutes of the movie, like it starts up out with like this big shootout, and then Jackie Chan's like chasing these goons that get hop on a bus. So he grabs an umbrella, hooks it to the bus, and now the bus is driving off, and Jackie Chan's holding the umbrella. um it's crazy like what this guy does. And he commits 110%. I've heard stories where he'll do all these dangerous stunts, but then he's like, no, I don't like the way that look, we're going to do it again, and he'll do the painful stunt over again and over, no matter how bad it hurts, because he's just really dedicated to like making it look perfect.
For sure.
So the action is great. There's like the most iconic part of the movie is at the end where he's like chasing these goons through a mall,
Oh
and
yeah, I
he
remember that.
and he slides down a pole through all these lights.
Mm-hmm.
But the interesting thing is they don't just show it once. They show it two different times from different angles, because like they have to show you like, wow, this is like really impressive. Like if you
Yeah.
look at any other action movie, they would show him going down once, but they'll cut to it like three different times.
Mm-hmm.
Where like he's going from the top to the bottom, and from the top to the bottom, there's three different cuts. No, he
Yeah.
goes from the top to bottom, all one take. Then he goes again from the top to bottom, all
Mm-hmm.
one take, just from a different angle, and they do that again, and it's crazy. This dude's 110% committed, and I just love the way the action, like the fight scenes, are choreographed and shot. All big wide shots, like, and they're long takes too, so you can see what's going on. You can see like all the choreography. One person gets thrown through glass, and like Jackie Chan's over here blocking and punching. It's so great. It's like a masterclass in directing action.
Mm-hmm.
And then you guys also talk about the comedy and like how great Jackie Chan does with that. There's this running gag throughout the movie where he's like constantly having these misunderstandings with his girlfriend. And so his girlfriend just keeps on getting upset with him. And so like at the beginning of the movie, he has to protect this witness to a case, and so he brings her over to his apartment on his birthday, and so he opens the door to his apartment, walks through, and surprise, like there's his girlfriend with like all their friends and a cake, and he's like over here with this girl, and the girlfriend just like throws the cake right in his face. Girlfriend comes back while he's in the shower, and he's over here like talking smack about his girlfriend to the witness, like, oh, she's just very immature, she doesn't know what's going on, oh, I'll explain it later, and she'll be so she'll be so sorry, she'll be begging for my forgiveness, and like the girlfriend's over hearing all of this,
Yeah.
and it was so funny. And then he gets his comeuppance. There's one scene where he's left alone at the police station, and he has to take all these phone calls out at once. Oh, someone just robbed me. Oh, I was raped. And then the girl's like, what? And then he's like on the phone with his girlfriend too, talking about how they had to like go out for lunch with her mother,
Right.
and the girl's like, "Oh, what do I do?" He's like, "Oh, take a morning after pill." But the girlfriend overhears it, and so she's like, "Well, you tell your mother to take a morning after pill." And like the girlfriend just hangs up. It's a lot of like really well written humor. And like Jackie Chan delivers all of it really well with like great timing. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I haven't seen it myself, but I just know like of those scenes, like when he stops the bus and him chasing the dude through the mall, and then keeps crashing into like glass or whatever. Like it's iconic scenes, but I do want to sit down and actually watch the full movie. It sounds great.
Yeah, it's amazing. I thoroughly recommend it. Just like I said, really well directed action. It's gone on to inspire so many action filmmakers today.
Hmm.
So I think with that, that's where we're gonna end today's podcast. Um, I've been Alexander Zapeta. You can follow me on social media, Jedi Master Alex on Twitter, and Alexander Zapeta on Letterboxd. My last name is spelled Zepeda. Jalen, where can people follow you on social media?
Yeah, you could follow me on Reddit and Letterboxd at jmike127. And if you feel like it, connect with me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. You can also follow us on Instagram at the Film School Snobs. And then you can email us at thefilmschoolsnobs@gmail.com. And that has been all for this week's episode. Thanks for watching.
Later.